Hi guys,
Hey guys,
I'm Gail,
I'm Russell.
and welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the cornerstone, the masculine and the feminine state, and a few things that fall underneath that, and just expanding further into this thing and the dance of the masculine and feminine state.
And obviously it falls into communication as well, because
Yeah.
the whole relationship's about the level of communication you have. And one of the things we notice, part of the feminine, and this is secret women's business, that women don't like the fact I know about, but and you don't like to let your man know this, but women are always tested.
And we're testing to, is our man going to be there? Does he get us? And ultimately, do we feel safe and secure inside the relationship? And subconsciously, ladies, whether you realize it or not, you're going to be testing anyway. The key is once you start noticing and picking out that you are actually testing, the gold in the relationship and the feminine state part of it is once you realize you're testing.
Testicling?
That could be a fun one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Testicling.
Let's do an episode on testicling. I'm up for that.
Woo!
I don't know what it involves, but it sounds good.
It sounds a bit exciting. Once you realize...
My state's changed all of a sudden.
Woo!
Testicling.
Testicling. That sounds like a fun, like...
Yeah, I like it.
Anyways, back into it, right? From a feminine state point of view, the moment you realize you're testing is to actually then ask for what you want. And that is one of the principles of the feminine state, is asking for what you want. And
be open, be vulnerable.
Be open, be vulnerable, asking for what you want, sharing yourself, and be willing to say the thing. And if you haven't heard me say this before, I'm going to say it again. There are times where I would rather chew my arm off, like legitimately chew my arm off, than ask for what I want, but I do it anyway. And why I do it is not just for Russell and not for the relationship, but I do it for me. Because the moment I don't ask for what I want and I go, I really would have wanted to do this and I didn't say that thing. I really want to go and do a coaching session, or I really want to go on holidays, or do a night away, or out on a date night, or out on a date lunch, or this would be kind of fun in sex, or whatever the thing is. The moment I don't ask for it, the person who's getting let down is me. And then ultimately that impacts the relationship. So the moment you realize you're testing, ladies, is the moment you need to start asking for what you want, and get better at simply asking for what you want. Because naturally at a subconscious level, you will be testing whether you know you are or not. It's happening.
Yeah, every woman tests in all sorts of different ways. And, the job for the woman is to test less and to ask for what she wants. The job for the man is to step up and be certain, take ownership. That certainty and ownership thing is critical. Ownership and certainty is not about knowing that you're right, knowing what to do. It's just about being certain that you've got the relationship.
Yeah, it can actually be just, hey, I don't actually know what to do next, but I've got it. I've got the relationship. I've got you. I'll figure it out. It becomes figure outable. You don't have to actually know what to do next. It's more about being certain and I've got you, no matter what.
So critically, those two things fit together, because when she tests, the first thing from a masculine point of view is we need to be aware of the test, notice the test. Even I always like to talk about it's not what we say, it's what we do and how we be that's most important. And so even as we start this podcast, it doesn't mean just because Gail knows this, she's not testing. So the first thing that I'm doing when we start the podcast is I'm actually started to take note now, because I haven't been noticing today, I've been doing other stuff, but you make it kind of second nature. Now I'm bringing conscious awareness to it. I want to take note and I want to look and see, okay, is she testing right now? Does she feel safe? Does she feel secure? Because for a woman, it's always about safety, security being the number one focus. So it's a dance. The masculine and feminine is a dance. It's not this is a set of rules to follow. And this is why we're dancing all the time. So even when we're starting the podcast, we're dancing.
Yeah, we're creating that dance and that movement. And people often go why does he get to lead? Ladies will say, well, why does he get to lead? Why, the man goes first. And if you think of a dance, he's leading in the dance. Well, it takes just as much courage and acceptance and love for self to dance with him and to accept as it does to then lead. So it's not about he gets to lead and then you're the doormat or you're the you're less than. It's like when you accept and you two move together in this dance, that's the beautiful gift. And it's like each person's role is equally as important as the other. Like if Russell tries to move me in a dance and I stand still, like we're not going anywhere, right? So my acceptance of his desire to lead creates that movement, and you see it when you watch professional dancers dance. Watch the masculine lead, and then the feminine accepts, and then it moves and it flows together. But if she just stood stern and like didn't move, like it wouldn't happen. The dance wouldn't flow.
Yeah, I think the and the following and the leading, they have a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
You know that there's leaders are only leaders because of followers.
Yeah, the leader only gets to be the leader because the first person followed, and then everybody followed after. Right?
And you know, and there's the first follower is so important to any movement that's ever created. And so you need, every leader needs followers. So it's not like the ones, we're not talking one superior or
better than.
And you know, we're not talking about, I'm just thinking about, we'll talk a bit more about the lunch we had the other day, but when we're in lunch, before we went to lunch, I was leading. Once we're at lunch, Gail's much better with the menu. She understands it much better. She's a big foodie. So she leads in what we're going to order and everything. I still take ownership, still participate, still take I don't dump the emotional weight over there.
But it's important to notice as well, Russell knows me really well. So immediately we're in a new restaurant that I've never been before. So I'm asking the server, like, what are your favorite things? Like, what do you recommend? And, you know, we're in an Indian restaurant as well. So, like, I don't like it fiery, spicy, whereas Russell's happy to have that. And it's like, so it's understanding your partner and then engaging. And he knows I get excited and I taste all the things in my mouth. And there's a service going like, well, what about this? And what about that? And I'm like, I'm having a whole experience and party in my mouth even before the food's arrived. And that's not, Russell's not that person. Sometimes he looks at the menus and goes like, what even is half this stuff? And I'm like, oh babe, you will love this, this, and this, because I know him. I've taken an interest in knowing, you know, what are the things that he will love, and he knows equally what are the things that I will love, and what are we going to want to like dance and play with together and go like, ooh, I want to taste that off your plate.
So from a woman's point of view, these tests are coming up all the time, and they could be little or big. And the more of them you can learn to pass as a man, the better it feels. First of all, for a man, you know, often I think that men don't really know, well, what's in it for me in this relationship thing.
Yeah, like why pass the test?
Yeah,
what's the point?
Because you got a choice. You can sit on the couch, you can withdraw into your phone, you can play the PlayStation, you can watch TV,
you can work, all the other things.
You can take no interest in your partner, and you can probably survive. But it's really not fulfilling, and you know it's not fulfilling. You know, it's like those days you waste. You know you haven't been fulfilled wasting those days. Well, your relationship from a masculine point of view is the same as that. Once you start to get this right, it's the sense of pride, the sense of ownership, the sense of knowing you've achieved something, that innate sense of providing something that the masculine state is craving, that innate sense of purpose.
It's like,
that we're designed. Yeah.
Right? It's guys, you get, like, gentlemen, you get that I did good. Like for Russell, like, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But like yesterday, like I've shared the food experience.
Yeah, so yesterday, well, just a background first, you know, we were out and I had to go and get some electrical cable, and I stopped at this electrical shop, and there's next door, there's this little Indian place I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Taste of Southern India in Guelph. Beautiful. I mean, go there if you the food's fantastic. It's vegetarian. So it's really great for vegetarians, but delicious food, a little bit different to what you might get from what I've seen from
like other Indians, because it was South Indian, so I didn't know. Different.
But anyway, fabulous food. So, but the point is I saw this shop before I went into the electrical shop, and I know Gail. I know she loves food, so straight away I'm stepping up, taking certainty, and I'm like, hey babe, look at this Indian place, you know. And so while I was in there dealing with the electrical stuff, Gail spent a little bit of time on her phone just looking at the menu, of course, checking it, seeing if she liked it. When I came out, I said to her, come on, babe, let's go there for lunch.
That's leading, right? He's taking responsibility, he's leading, he's certain, because if he's not leading and not taking initiative and not being certain, then there's every possibility I'm gonna go like, nah, let's just go home, or like,
I
no,
can
we can
cook,
or we can
I've
create
got
something,
this.
or we can do something else, or it's easy to take him out.
But I know she loves the food.
Which is a test, by the way, just to point it out as we go through. I'll point out different places where that's the test. The test of the like, now let's go home. That is a subtle test. Sometimes it's actually what I want, and other times it is actually a test. Like, does he love me enough? Does he know me enough to go like, no, babe, come on, let's go. Let's have lunch. Let's take the time and have lunch.
So this is the fun for the masculine state. Once you get out of taking things personally and you stop taking everything as a complaint and everything as an attack and everything as that you've done a bad job. Once you cut all that out, then you get to play this game. And this game is, what's this test? Is this a test? Is this what she really wants?
Yeah.
And she doesn't always know.
No.
So, and I wouldn't say very seldom do women know, because they're in their emotional brain.
They're feeling all
their
the
feels.
Yeah. And I mean, like, take a previous day, a few days before, right? We were coming back from somewhere, and he'd asked the same question about stopping in a couple of different places. I'm like, no, I'll go home and create, and make these burgers that I got, right? Well, they ended up being a taste sensation, and I actually genuinely wanted to go home, but he needs to, pick up on those subtle cues as well. Equally, if I'd realized that was a test, I would say, I want to go home and have, I just want to chill vibes, right? Chill vibes. I'll make burgers and we'll just enjoy burgers at home, right? Or whatever. But it's important to know that when that's happening and to be able to catch yourself out. So for him is to be certain and go yep, to feel what's going on. And for me is to recognize and say when I do want something different.
So for the masculine, for the men, honestly, guys, take a minute, start looking for these tests.
Become a detective.
Yeah, become a real detective into this. It's fun, and it gives you a real sense of, ownership, masculinity, a feeling that you're doing
a good job.
Doing a good job.
Creating a space.
A sense of pride in yourself, a sense of being there, a sense of presence. And all of those things are what really kick it off for a man in a relationship. Yes, it's easy to withdraw, easy to sit back, easy to let them lead, easy to think that they know, let them tell you what they're doing. But it's not fulfilling.
And think of it like this. If you had a choice between, think of your favorite dessert or favorite meal, between the crumbs left at the end of a plate or the whole thing, the crumbs of a cake or the whole cake, which would you choose, right? You want the whole cake. And I can guarantee that some of you guys, your relationship is operating in crumbs, and that sucks. That is not a fun place to be. Or maybe a sliver of a piece of cake, or a whole piece of cake, but not the whole damn thing. And the other thing I wanted to add in is, ladies, be curious. Be curious about, is this actually a time I can ask for what I want? And I can tell you 100% of the time, if you know there's something you want and you're not asking for it, 100% you need to ask for what you want. Be willing to ask, even if the answer may be no, because just because you ask doesn't mean you're going to get. But what you're doing is you're creating, a space where you feel like you can ask for anything that you want. I mean, heck, I remember going back years ago, the first time I told Russell I wanted to go to Canada on a trip when we were living in Australia. I knew there was logistics. We had kids and ex-wives and stuff to deal with to make that possible. And so I knew it wasn't going to be oh yeah, cool, let's go tomorrow for 6, because I didn't want to come for a short period. That was a question, that was a request that was going to take some fine tuning. And so it's not about asking for what you want in order to get it. It's being willing to ask with the possibility of it showing up at whatever given point. And because what you want is important and is valuable in a relationship, and don't keep chipping away at yourself, unwilling to say, hey, this is actually what I want, for fear of, he's just going to say no, or it's not actually possible. I don't know how financially we could deal with that. I don't know if he's actually going to be on board. Whatever the following conversation is that happens in your head, be willing to ask for the thing anyway, and start small. Start with, hey babe, can you grab me a glass of water when you're out of the kitchen? Or even if he's not up, can you grab me a glass of water? That's a test, by the way, ladies, to see if he actually loves you. And it's also practicing the art of asking for what you want.
You know, these tests come all over the place. I remember in the early days, Gail would always, not so much nowadays with the kids and that, she likes to shower on her own. It's a bit of alone time for her.
It's a bit of a novelty.
But in the early days, she would always want to shower with me. I mean, and our showers, they were great things. You know, what they really look like is Gail standing under the hot water, getting lovely soaked up and enjoying her shower, and me standing in the freezing cold corner, getting little splashes of warmth every now and then as I freeze my butt off because there's no water coming on me. And then, but what it means for Gail is, of course, she's got me trapped in a cubicle.
Confined space.
Trapped in a cubicle, she's got my attention, she's got my presence, she's got my, I'm being there for her. But so she loved that experience, and then every now and then she'd let me have a bit of hot water so I didn't freeze to death. But that was what our showers would often look like. Well, she'd often say to me, you know, I'm going to shower, are you coming to shower? And that's a test. Like, she used to test, and sometimes she would want to shower on her own, but then I've got to then work it out. Is this a test? Does she want me to shower? And 9 times out of 10 back in those days, she did want me to come and shower with her. And so I had to then kind of be a detective, take an interest, notice, let go of whatever I think I'm doing or is more important to make sure she's the number one focus. And then go and enjoy that freezing cold shower while she can talk at me for 15 minutes and tell me all the emotional stuff she needs to unburden and unwind. But that was one of the tests that Gail used to do on a regular basis. Instead of sharing and saying, hey babe, I'm going to have a shower, I'd really love you to come and shower with me so we can have a conversation, so I can feel connected, so I can get some time with you. She would say, I'm going to shower. And then see if I notice, see if I spot it, see if I'm present, see if I'm paying attention.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the fluffing your feathers part, right? Like, it's kind of like, if you think of yourself as a bird, right? You're fluffing your feathers going like, does he notice me? Does he actually take an interest? Am I actually the most important person in his world? And when you feel gotten in that way by your partner, a whole new level of openness gets created for a woman. Like, my capacity or my ability or my desire to want to open up to share more grows. And I know for a lot of women, you're holding back a lot of what's going on for you day in, day out. And can you imagine what that feels like? And I know if you just take a moment now and go, wow, what are all of the things I've been holding back with my partner and not saying, not sharing, not saying, like having him get. And all of that exists inside of your body. So then when you try and flow through day in, day out, you have minimal capacity and you're exhausted and drained or burnt out, or your zest for life is gone, or your mojo's like no longer there, and you feel like you're everything for everybody else. And you have a partner that you can actually share your life with and share all of what's going on for you in order for both of you to have the space to have a better life. And I think for the men listening as well, some of you might be thinking right now, like, man, that seems like I've got a lot of work to do. So Russell, like, what does it feel like from a man's point of view? How does it differ? Because you've got experience in past relationships that you can reference back to, and then clients and stuff. How does it differ for a man when you've got me, when you pass the tests, when you show up? What does that feel like different to how it might have felt in the past? So like the men can kind of go like, oh yeah, that gives me a reason. I really would want to do that.
I think the biggest difference is this idea that in a relationship, men just feel like they're not doing a good job and they're not succeeding. And so they feel like flat, down, withdraw, like they can never get it right. They give up because they just don't understand their woman. They don't understand what she's doing and what she's about. And so eventually they just kind of live in this kind of dead relationship, this invisible divorce, this withdrawn relationship. And you end up there. Whereas if you take the time to put in these things that we're talking about, this masculine, feminine dance, passing these tests, if you take the time to do that, you feel a deeper connection. You feel like you're in a partnership, you know, and it's something that you want to grow more of. As you do it and as you pass the test, and pass these tests and be present, you want to get better and better at it, and it's it's like your best day in whatever sport you ever do, or your best day at work,
Yeah.
or
It
your
becomes a place you
best
wanna spend
achievement.
time.
It gives you more fulfillment and more satisfaction
Yeah.
than any other experience, really. Often men say, it's known men like a challenge. That's why men like sports, and that's why men like work, and that's why men like all of that, because they like a challenge. But the place they miss the biggest challenge is with their wife, girlfriend, partner. And this is really sad, because if men like a challenge, why don't they like the challenge of their partner? And one of the reasons is, many reasons, but one of the main reasons is because their partner's an expert at triggering their childhood wounds, and that hurts. And because that hurts, that becomes too much of a challenge. But when you get really good at passing those and communicating openly, and making that work, then the connection, the bond is different. And then sexually is the same thing. So what's happening sexually is you're not passing these tests in life, you're not doing the work outside of the bedroom, so you actually only end up getting a quarter to a half of the woman in the bedroom.
Yeah, you're not getting the full, like, her fully open and surrendering and giving herself fully to you.
And that's the whole point. And for a woman as well, it's the same thing. So even taking this to the bedroom is, the job is to stop testing, ask for what you want, open your heart, open yourself, open your legs, and let him in. Let him in. We don't want half closed legs when we're going in, right? And Gal's talking about, do you have to want the edge of the pie, or do you want the whole pie? No, I want to get my whole face in there.
I want it all.
I want to get that in there, and then be told whereabouts in the pie I'm doing a good job, if you like, you know. So these things all translate and transverse, but I better not go down that path.
We will have a whole podcast on sexual intimacy, because it is a fun one. And
but
it'll be more.
Well, it's more than one.
It'll be more than one.
But the point I want you to get from a masculine point of view is when the work you do outside of the bedroom translates inside the bedroom. So you get twofold. You get a different. You can be having sex, but it's not the same as sacred love, sacred sex, sacred connection, sacred bond, sacred.
And the level at which that fills you up, I think that's the other thing, is like you're sexually satisfied at a whole new level. And for some of you go like, I don't think it's possible for me to be sexually full anymore, and I promise you there's another level.
Yeah, there's way more levels than you think there is. There's always more levels, and
we're always uncovering,
discovering,
new levers.
uncovering levels.
And it's interesting as well. Like, I was just as Russell was speaking, I was reflecting back on this guy had once said to me in passing, and it's kind of sad when you think of it. Like, he said it as a joke. He said him and his wife are like two ships passing in the night, and their sex life consists of fuck you, well fuck you too. That's their sex life. And like, he was saying it like, haha, this is like a funny way that they interact, but that's the sad truth about where couples get to, is like they really become two ships passing in the night, and they aren't dancing anymore. They're really just going through the motions of, like, if they're it's like co-parenting, or they're living two separate lives. They're there and they're in the same home, but they're not actually there. There's no connection. There's no communication. The dance of the masculine and feminine state is not happening. And that's 3 out of 4 of the cornerstones. And then the relationship entity doesn't even exist. And we will do a whole podcast on the relationship entity.
So let's just drive back into the testing and the certainty, because I think that's really valuable for people to start to understand. So from a feminine point of view, to really get your tests, and even out some of them is great.
Yeah.
To really be able to say,
like, oh, I was testing there.
Yeah, instead of asking for what I want. For a masculine point of view, to know that they're always going on, even for me and Gal, as we're talking right now, she's checking, does he understand what we're talking about? Does he know the test? We'll often get a couple who'll sit down in front of us, or come to us for the first or second time, and I'll ask a few questions, and I'll say, well, who wants to go first?
And share what's going on. Where are you at?
And the woman will look over to him.
Either she'll look, or she'll actually say, why don't you go first?
Yeah, why don't you go first? She'll look to him for him to start. And if he doesn't start, she'll say, well, why don't you go first?
Yeah.
And then often what he'll do is he'll go, well, you go. And most of the time, from a masculine point of view, that's because he's too used to saying the wrong thing that from his point of view gets barked at, shouted at, put down, which makes him feel bad.
Yeah.
So he's learned to kind of shut up a little bit because he doesn't seem to be able to say the right thing. So he stops saying anything. And it's actually men, honestly, it's better to say the wrong thing than it is to say no thing.
Yeah, no thing is like a bad thing.
It's a killer for a relationship. And what it feels like for a man is when you say the wrong thing, then you get something back which feels like, you know, being told off, being told you did it wrong, being told you're not doing a good job. And that makes men feel like that's bad. But when you say no thing, you get nothing back.
Yeah.
And when you get nothing back, that's way worse.
That's like danger zone.
Yeah. So as men, we want to really get used to taking a chance. So let's just take the other day with this food. And I said to her, babe, let's go and have lunch here. She could have said, oh, no, I was thinking we'll go home and have this. To which then I want to reply, you know, well, no, let's go and have lunch. So some certainty.
Yeah.
Give her the opportunity to really explore inside what's going on for her and whether it's something she really wants to do or doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just said, oh, okay, let's just do what you want to do, she doesn't get that chance.
No.
And often, you know, I'll talk about the gold nugget inside, the emotional truth of what's really going on for her. And often this is what the test is designed for, to find out, okay, well, what's going on below this?
Yeah.
So when the woman says this to the man, you know, well, you go first, he needs to pass the test. He needs to see it as now what he thinks it's about saying the right thing, getting it right, showing that he's paying attention. But it's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the woman feeling safe and secure and knowing that he's got her.
Yeah.
And this is the purpose of passing the test. We're passing the test so she knows that I've got her. And that's what she needs to understand and know. And even I can look now and I can go, okay, well, there's a little test in her eyes. I can see it. You know, she's going, well, you know, it might be I haven't been here all day or whatever. So these tests are coming all the time. As a man, we need to bring certainty, not getting it right, not knowing what we're doing, not always having the right answer, not never getting it wrong. We need to bring certainty of ownership, knowing that I've got this and I'm going to pass the test. What is the test? What is going on underneath? What does the statement that the person's making, in this case, she's saying, you know, you go first, what will you tell me? That's the surface level. Underneath, she's saying, I want to know that you've got me. I want to know that we're safe and secure. I want to know that you're interested. I want to know that I matter. And this is all of the ways that she tests. And then equally for her, she could learn to say, from a feminine point of view, what would she say from a feminine point of view?
Well, in that interaction, it would just be like, I would really love you to go first. It would mean a lot for me if you could actually be the first one to go here. That would be, he would then get that, like, it's important and he has value and what he's got to say means something to her.
And then elaborating on that to go into your feelings, what would you say? Because if we dig deeper, if we open more, we become more vulnerable from the feminine state. We'll say, well, I'd love you to go first. It would mean a lot for me because when you step up or when you take the lead or when I feel, that's going to be how it's going to be for a woman. Some version of that, or?
From a feminine point of view, it would be like if you were going to add the next layer to it, it would be like, I would love you to go first because when you go first, I feel like you've got me. I feel like I'm safe. I feel like that you love me enough to be willing to share whatever might be going on for you.
Right, and then if I go deeper now, because now I can hear it in the conversation, the thing that the women, the ladies listening, Gail doesn't want to say, the thing that she says, I'd rather chew my arm off than say this, is I need you to go first. That would be the words that she's getting to as I'm talking to her more.
Because you have to keep unpacking it, right? It's not going to instantaneously come to you. And gentlemen, if you're holding space and like you're allowing your woman to get to the point where she can just say, like, I need you to go first. Like, I need that from you.
Right now, I need that. I've got nothing in the tank.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason that women don't want to say that, and the reason they test is because men have let them down so many times.
And we feel like from a feminine point of view, it feels like you need to do all, right? You need to take care of the life, the family, the house, you've got to carry it all. And
even in this situation, often it's the woman that's booked the relationship call or the relationship discovery call, because she knows there's something wrong, and now I've booked it, I've got there, we're sitting down, and now I've still got to go first.
And then even like if you take lunch, like, well, why does he need me to decide? Why doesn't he just go, let's go in? Like if Russell had gone like, well, what do you think, babe? Like, should we go here? Shouldn't we go here? Like, that's one more thing I've got to figure out. And that just becomes like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Like, I've already figured out enough things for the day. Can you not just figure it out? Like, and that's the feeling inside. Whereas like when he's like, yeah, let's just go to lunch. Let's go try all this new place. Immediately, like, I don't have to decide. I don't have to make that choice. I make the choice to follow, which is the dance, right? When we talked about the dance. So he's put forward a request and I've accepted, and then the dance is happening. But for a woman, it's also like, I don't have to choose that anymore. I don't have to decide. It's one less thing in the questions of the day that I don't have to decide.
And I promise you, for the women out there, this, but for the men listening, your partner is carrying so much weight emotionally. And you as a man have the ability, the capacity to remove that emotional weight. They're leading in so many areas of life, and the way they carry weight is completely different. And one of the purposes of the masculine state and the men and our need to provide is providing the release of that emotional weight. And if the more areas we can do it in, the more relaxed they feel, the more at ease they are.
It's really interesting that you say that, just because it's always, as we're in this podcast, like, stuff is dropping in for each of us, I'm sure for Russell as much as me. But as he's saying that, like, so the moment he's leading and I know he's got me, I have the space to do more and take care of myself in a totally different way. So like the last 2 days, for example, okay, I'm not a napper. I am not. Like, just so we're clear, that is not something. My sister's, one of them, she's a napper, but I am not a napper. So like when I have taken, like the last 2 days, I've had a nap. One day was about 40 minutes. The other day was about 45 minutes, right? And I'm like, because I just was absolutely shattered. But when I know he's got me, I have the space to just nap, to not feel like, oh, well, crap, I need to like prep this or do that or fill the space with one more thing. I actually have the freedom and the okayness within self to go like, actually, what I really need right now is just to put my head down and rest. So I haven't actually I didn't realize that until just now. So that's why I'm like, I'm just bringing this up live and in real time, because like, I really appreciate that you had me in the last few days. Like, I didn't feel like, whatever would happen with dinner or whatever the other things were that I could have preoccupied the time with. Like, I just had the space to go like, I'm okay to, wow, I'm getting super emotional on this one. Wow, I'm okay to just be with what I need right now. And ladies, the emotion there is often we don't feel like we have the space to just be what we need for ourselves in that moment. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about, because you've all felt it. And gentlemen, you have the space to allow her to get okay with whatever she might need in that moment. And it's a gift. Like, this level of emotion is like a gift. Like, Russell needs to be like, damn, I did so good. I created that for my partner to have an emotional release, which that's what's going on right now. That's an emotional release and a purge of something that's been in her space.
This goes way deeper than you not getting on and these things you argue about and you're feeling like the relationship has, we're talking about the sacred relationship entity, the sacred place of when you're in that place, what you get to create for your partner. And just listening to Gail talk there, this is where the man goes, wow, I provided that. I made that available. I took all that weight away from her so she could get a nap. how great is that? I'm not trying to
And
fix
greater
her.
than the nap is the emotional release of it's okay whatever I might need. Like that's the bigger part that I maybe you didn't get. Like that space that gets created. Like that's a massive thing that gets lifted off of my space, out of my space.
And that's why, this dance of the masculine and feminine and what we're talking about that you can have in relationship, what you can create, what you can make available. That's why it goes way deeper than the words, the explanations. It's an energy, it's created, it's
created live and in real time, right? Like
nurtured over time.
You couldn't make that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah.
You can't make it happen.
And I think that just talking about, from that point of view, we are hardwired we seem as men to find everything we do wrong and what we don't get right. And so often we don't look for the appreciation. So that's wonderful in this podcast right now. In that moment, she's appreciated me.
Yeah, but
I feel great. But even before she appreciated me, I can notice that she's got the space to rest. She doesn't actually need to say it. Even going back to the lunch the other day, the restaurant.
We were talking about that earlier.
We were talking about it. I said, I was surprised you didn't say to me, well done, babe, for taking the lead there and for saying
taking the initiative and making lunch happen.
Yeah, making it happen and spending a date lunch with me, spontaneity and doing all of that.
And that's the part. That's the level Russell thought the appreciation would come over, but the appreciation from my point of view, which I guess because that just in the flow part of it is like I appreciated that we got to stop and have lunch and all these new food experiences, and oh my gosh, just side note, what we got to have is the little dessert thing was so good. And then you made this complimentary drink for us as well. It was like a coconut spritzer with passion fruit. Oh my god. Anyway, side notes, those are all the cool things. But I was already in my element and appreciating all those things. But Russell was surprised that the appreciation didn't come from the initial point of contact. And it's an important thing to point out for men is gentlemen, don't get fixated on what you think you should be appreciated over. Better take the appreciation wherever she's giving it to you. And then notice that you must have done a friggin' awesome job. Russell must have done really good in that moment, even though I didn't notice it was all at a subconscious level in being certain and taking ownership and making the date lunch happen, that then I had a whole different space to appreciate him at another level.
Yeah. So this the whole appreciation is from a masculine point of view. We need to look, we don't need the words all the time. There's appreciation going on just in who she's being, how she's acting, the excitement.
Yeah.
Talking
to the food, the server,
fun.
All the things.
You should know you should know your partner enough to know what parts they appreciate.
Yeah.
And you can't get this level by sitting on the couch withdrawing or playing your PlayStation or drinking a beer or going out with your mates. It's not available. You have to be willing to participate. And when you do, your relationship and your life will move to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And I say that just because I know for the men, they don't know how to do it. And because they don't know how to do it, they basically, a lot of them give up. Or a lot of them think that they've done a bad job because they're not taking the time to understand what's going on below the surface. And what with these tests, how are they coming? What do they look like? And then what's this state of certainty I need to pass it? How can and then what does it make available for my partner?
Yeah, why would I want to do it? Why would I even bother wanting to pass the tests? And because from a men or women's point of view is you got into this thing called a relationship. Wouldn't you actually want to have it be a place and a source of love, joy, excitement, euphoria, orgasmic, all of the things? And if you could create that on a more consistent, regular basis, wouldn't you want that? Rather than the default of disconnect, withdrawal, depressed, anxious, sad, lonely, fill in the blank, right, of how you may be feeling currently in your relationship. If you had the option to create something new, wouldn't you want to do that? And that's really where it comes down to is let's create a space where our relationship is somewhere where we want to spend time. And I don't mean just time as in like, yeah, we're in the same, I mean, Russell and I work from home as well. So you could say we spend a lot of time together, but that just being in the same house is not time together. That's not connection. It's not the masculine and feminine state, the dance. It's not actually taking conscious moments in our relationship to be with one another. That's just living in the same house, right? So differentiate for yourselves is that living in the same house is different than actually taking the time to connect, understanding what it means to dance in the masculine and feminine state, taking the time to communicate and really share what's there for you.
And I think from a masculine point of view as well, you know, it's really key to get that being in a little boy state or a feminine state is never going to be fulfilling.
No.
Getting your needs met through work, through play, through travel, through going anywhere on your own or doing PlayStation, drink, it's never going to be fulfilling. It's a poor substitute for what's available. And so when we talk about the, you know, this takes being in a masculine state, which then really will recharge your batteries quicker, give you a better sense of purpose in your life, a better sense of fulfillment.
It's like you can actually have a natural relationship high.
Yeah, it is like that.
When you get your relationship flowing, and that doesn't mean shit doesn't go on, guys, like, right, like stuff still happens, but like when you really get your relationship working and like coming back together and you've mastered that state, it becomes a relationship high.
It is not harder work.
No.
It is way easier work.
It's harder to keep doing the shitty things you're doing in your relationship right now than it is to actually put in place the good ones, which that's, I think, an important thing for people to notice is like by default, shitty things are showing up and it takes no more work than that continuing to happen than it does to actually have the good shit happen.
Yeah, and then once you're in that place, then flow happens. Once you get your needs met in the relationship, then and not at work or by controlling or by doing any other thing. Once you start to get your needs met through being awesome in the relationship and knowing what it takes, you know, men, it does not take what you think it takes in a relationship. It does not take always having the right answer. It does not take making them happy 24/7. It does not take them not complaining.
Goodness, if you think you're going to keep your partner happy 24/7, you might want to just bust that bullshit straight away, because there's no woman that is happy 24/7.
You know, there's a great skit that we use in one of our courses, and you know, the guy says, you know, this is about keeping the woman happy, but there's a problem there. I've never met a happy woman in my life. They're always finding something to complain about, and there's an element of truth in that. There's something about you that you are not passing a test that they then feel they need to test you over instead of sharing with you what they need. I'm really interested in this topic of what makes a man want to do this. And you know what it is? It's when you stop testing and start asking for what you need from a feminine point of view, and you start sharing yourself, opening your heart, being vulnerable, letting them know that you need them.
But it's interesting because I think we've had that conversation at various different points where it's like, you know, like Russell will say to you, like, Gail can do life much better. Sometimes it would feel like without you, right? Like, what is his purpose? What is the point of him being here? And the point is, and we have had this conversation, and if you haven't had this conversation, it's a great one to have, because it's like, well, yeah, you know what? Like, I can do life. I can take care of the kids, the house, all the things. I can do all the things on my own. That's not a problem. I don't want to, though. I choose to have Russell in my life. I want him to be involved. I want him to be next to me. I want to go on holidays. Like, oftentimes I get in a conundrum when I'm like needing to fill my own cup up, and I'm like, oh, but that would be really nice to do with Russell. And then I'm like, oh, that would be really lovely to do as a family. So I get in this conundrum of like taking care of myself versus I really want to do these things with him too. Like, I want to do life with him. I don't want to do life on my own. And you have to be willing to share that with your partners, ladies. Like, your partner needs to hear that you actually need them, because they know you can do life on your own. That communicates?
Yeah. I mean, look, think about it, men. If you think about where men really struggle, where they get depressed, suicidal, lonely, whatever, where they really struggle is they struggle with, failure. They struggle with not being needed, and not being valued, and with getting it wrong. And so when you get this right, if you think about what Gail said about getting a nap, and then she shared it with us today and shared it with me, that's like all validation. Yeah. So from a masculine point of view, we have to change the viewpoint that we consider makes our partner, happy is not the right word.
No.
So men, if you're in your relationship right now and your measurement for whether you're doing a good job or not is if she is happy, you need to change that measurement.
Change the measurement.
Happiness has nothing to do with a successful relationship for a woman.
And I would actually put a challenge out there for the gentleman. Go out and see how many times you can get it wrong. Like, actually go, how many times could I say the wrong thing?
You're not trying to get it wrong.
No, not like, but like,
just being okay with.
Be okay with.
Don't try, because you're getting it wrong all the time anyway, men. So you really got nothing to lose, because you're actually getting it wrong all the time anyway.
Yeah,
and
but
the
be
reason...
okay with that. Like, accept that, it's not about knowing the right thing or saying the right thing or being or doing the right thing in every given moment. It's being willing to go like, oh, okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's set correct.
Yeah.
Like, even...
That set correct is critical as well. That there's... Women look at set correct different to a man.
Yeah.
A man... Go on,
sorry. I was going to say, because if you take it back to yesterday at the restaurant scenario, right? Like, if Russell took his thought, which your thought was, oh man, she didn't appreciate that I took the initiative, because you had that.
I had that thought. I was surprised.
He was surprised because you brought it up when we were sitting
at
lunch.
Yeah, I was surprised at how you didn't acknowledge.
But if he took that, gentlemen, which is what most of you are doing currently, if that became the gauge of doing it or not doing it, he would have not done it yesterday.
Or thought I didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
And then wouldn't do it again.
Right. And it's like, no. Shit, no. Like, don't not do it again, because that was awesome, right? Like, but that conversation has to get had as well. Like, because he had to say, like, oh, I was really surprised. Like, and he said that yesterday at lunch when we first got in there. He's like, I was surprised you didn't, I can't remember the exact words, but you didn't notice da-da-da-da-da. And I think I was a bit perplexed, because I think it was like such a subtle, subconscious, always got me feeling that it didn't feel like it needed a...
Yeah, they're not always going to appreciate the way you think they should.
Yeah, like, so...
It doesn't mean they don't appreciate you.
Yeah, and so, like, don't always take the response as the reason why you do it or don't do it.
Yeah. So I think just to understand the fact that women are testing will give you men a different way of looking at it and a different understanding. They need to be understood. We all need to be understood, but they need to be understood. They need to know that we're detectives looking out to find out what's going on, that we're interested.
Yeah.
They want to be the number one focus. And so, guys, look out for those tests. Start to really work out how to pass those tests. Start to be certain in the way that you approach it. Not worry about if you get it right or wrong. If you get it wrong, you can change. Like if I said to her, let's go to dinner and then to lunch, and then she'd have kind of adamantly not wanted to, I can change. It's like, okay, great, well, let's go home and have something.
Yeah.
It's not like set in stone, so it's like a dance, it's a game.
It really is the dance.
And then from a feminine point of view, a dance.
Dance. From a feminine point of view is, ladies, I want you to really practice the art of asking for what you want and be willing to not get it. Because that's usually why you're not asking. Like, if you don't ask, the answer is no. Well, who the heck wants to go through life inferring no where there's a possibility of a yes or a like, I just can't even fathom not asking for what I want and just inferring no too often in my life where there is a possibility of yes, even if I don't think he's gonna say yes, or it seems like a 1 in 1 millionth chance of it being a yes. I'm still gonna ask, because why the heck not? Because I love me enough. I know I'm deserving enough, I value, I'm worthy, I'm enough that I can ask for what I want. So practice asking for what you want, and be okay with, in the same way the gentlemen have to be okay with not getting it right, we have to be okay with, it's not always going to be a yes, and it's not always going to be, yeah, cool. I can do that, but be willing to ask anyway, because otherwise you're just settling for a life of default no, or whatever the response might be. And that sucks. That is not where the good stuff, that is not where the good part of a relationship lies. Even for yourself, that does not feel good. And think of how many times you don't ask for what you want, and how many little like pockets of I was unwilling to ask and niggles that exist inside your body right now because you didn't ask for that thing, or you didn't say the thing, or you didn't share. And I'm saying, free that space, baby. free up the space so that you can emotionally and physically just flow through your life, and you can breathe a little bit deeper and stop carrying so much.
And then, of course, the flow from that is the man knows that you need him.
Yeah.
And that makes him want to get off the couch.
And do more. And be more in your relationship. And be there for you. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So, testing certainty.
Cool.
I like it.
All right, guys. That's it from us for today. Yes.
See you on another episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.